centrist Democrat think tank known as Third Way is working with Joe Biden in order to find the right messaging to make Democratic voters think that Medicare for All is a terrible idea. Now, as we all know, Medicare for All is the healthcare plan championed by Bernie Sanders. It is the absolute best healthcare proposal. It is comprehensive. It covers everything, including vision and dental. And so Biden, who has absolutely no vision for improving our healthcare system, wants to make voters think it's a bad idea. So what's the correct messaging? How do you do this? Well, you get a think tank like Third Way to test certain things out. So they get some Democratic voters together and they ask them in a poll, what would make you less likely to support Medicare for All? The study showed that Democrats are most swayed by the arguments that the program would impose a heavy cost on taxpayers and threaten Medicare for senior citizens.
So let's pause here for a couple of points. First of all, when even the corporate Third Way guys, they're funded by giant multinational corporations, tested Medicare for All, it came in as 70 to 21% favorable, 70 to 21. So if you're a Democrat and you have this wonderfully popular program that is on your side, why would you then try to test all the different ways you could defeat it? Now, does that make any sense to you? If you're a Republican, you're like, oh my God, the Democrats have this nuclear weapon and politically, it polls us 70 to 21. We gotta find a way to defeat it, let's make up lies about it, etc. But if you're a Democrat, why wouldn't you just go, oh great, I'll go on the side of the 70% instead of the side of the 21%, unless you're corrupt. Well, so it's not just Third Way. Third Way, the whole point of Third Way is corruption. To infiltrate the Democratic Party, to corrupt it with money and get them to vote for corporations rather than their voters. Third Way is the heart of corruption. That's the whole point of it. So I'm not surprised by that and I'm not interested in that. Why is Joe Biden helping this? So Joe Biden apparently doesn't want to represent the voters and doesn't even want to win. If you wanted to win, you'd be on the 70% side, not the 21% side. Instead, his strategists are figuring out how can we make sure that this Democratic proposal is defeated and destroyed. So if you care about unity, you should definitely vote against Joe Biden. So this should end Joe Biden. For him to go out and say, please find me a way to defeat a progressive idea that is incredibly popular in the country. Okay, now they go to the dirty tricks of all of these lies against the program that they tested. And at the end, I'll tell you something else they accidentally tested that tested really, really positive.
So I just want to answer to what you mentioned about why would a Democrat do this? Why would a Democrat fight against another Democrat on a proposal that's really popular? It's because while we have a two-party system just based on labels, Democrat versus Republican, in reality, in the Democratic Party especially, you have multiple parties, right? So Biden and Bernie Sanders, they both have D in front of their names, but in reality, Biden is a very different Democrat, right? He's not a progressive, he's not the same brand and doesn't have the same beliefs as Senator Sanders has. And look, Sanders is an incredible candidate, Biden knows that. And what he's doing is instead of focusing on, hey, what can I do to inspire this base? What can I do to provide something that gets voters excited? He's decided, no, I'm gonna work with a think tank to try to lie to the American public, to Democratic voters about the reality of this plan so they don't support Sanders. That's what this is about.
So look, Biden's not gonna win anyway. Right now, Warren has passed him in both Iowa and New Hampshire. She's closing in nationally. And I think the final two candidates are gonna be Warren and Sanders. But I don't wanna take any chances. So if you know anyone who's a Democrat, make sure you tell them, do not vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden plans to, once again, work with the Republicans to defeat all progressive priorities. He's done this in the past with Strom Thurmond, that is literal, and he brags about it. Oh, I worked with the segregationist Strom Thurmond to push the war on drugs onto Reagan and to make sure I locked up all those people he called thugs, etc. Right? Now he's turning around. It's not just the past. It's not just about busing. It's right now, working with corporations and Republicans to make sure that progressive priorities to get everybody healthcare are defeated. it cannot be Biden. It cannot be Biden. Not only is he a Republican, but he's gonna lose. Look at this. He's undermining the Democratic Party while running for office of president under the Democratic banner. This is a natural born loser.
So lightning round of the results from this research, okay? The survey found that Democrats are most swayed to oppose Medicare for all when told it would cost American taxpayers $3.2 trillion per year. 51% of Democratic primary voters said they found that argument convincing, while 43% said they did not. Now, remember, the way that Medicare for all would pay for healthcare is very different. It would take the cost from the American public and shift it onto the American government. Would taxes go up? Yes, and Bernie Sanders has not lied about that. The individuals who are gonna feel the most in tax increases are those who are earning a lot of money. Now, that doesn't mean middle class earners are not gonna be seeing an increase in their taxes. They will, but most of that burden is going to be carried by the wealthy. Also, keep in mind that you don't have a copay, you don't have a premium, you don't have a deductible, you don't have to deal with authorizations, you don't have to worry about whether a doctor is in network or out of network. None of that matters because every single person is covered under the same system, which gives you more leverage in negotiating with pharmaceutical companies to lower prices. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay, so two really important points here, guys. So in terms of taxes and the amount of money that you pay into copays, deductibles, et cetera, experts in the field have done the math on it. The top 5% would overall pay more under the new system. The other 95% would pay less, even when you take the taxes into account. 95% would pay less. Now, in this particular example, they said, oh, well, would it sway your opinion if you found out it cost $3.2 trillion a year? By the way, 43% of Democrats were like, no, it still doesn't swing my opinion. But now the reality is that's a lie. What they didn't tell you is it saves $3.4 trillion a year. Now, if you heard it that way, I'm sure that the answer would be a little different. Guys, hey, would it change your mind to know that it costs 3.2 trillion, but it saves 3.4 trillion? So wait, we're making more money and everybody gets healthcare? Yeah, that swings my mind. Now it's gonna be higher than 70%. Actually, you're gonna see some of those numbers in a sec.
So I love the message that they tested next because it is a straight up lie, especially when you consider what this policy is modeled after. 51% of Democratic voters said the argument that it would end Medicare as we know it was convincing.
Okay, stop there. Medicare for all takes Medicare as its base and actually builds on it, gives dental, eye care, it expands it greatly. So they take that and go, well, technically it would end Medicare as we know it because it would make it better. So why don't we lie to Democrats and say, oh, it's gonna end Medicare, you know it. That is a straight up Republican talking point and 100% lie. So the corporate douchebags at Third Way decided, let's test lies. And let's lie on behalf of corporations to protect our profits, because that's what we get paid to do. And Joe Biden's like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's work on telling people lies so they'll vote for Republicans. I mean Democrats.
Can I just say one other thing? Even given the lies that they're testing in this survey, still, it's a very slim majority.
I know.
Like super slim, like even if you tell them, oh, Medicare as you know it will be gone, super popular program, gone. 51%, barely the majority.
Yeah, if I thought it was gonna kill Medicare and not replace it, I'd be 100% opposed to it. But yet people are so desperate for a change on healthcare, it's still only at 51%, no matter how much they lie about it.
It's incredible. 53% said the claim that it would lower quality of care for seniors was convincing.
Not remotely true, another 100% lies spread by Third Way and Joe Biden.
But one thing I'm wondering is, look at the wording. They say that this message was convincing, right? Maybe these Democratic voters read that message and they think, yeah, not buying it, that sounds like a lie. I don't want to underestimate Democratic voters either. I think that There's been a lot of coverage on Medicare for all, and every single time the media attacks Bernie Sanders, it does open up a great opportunity for him to talk about his plan and how awesome it is, right? So let me give you more. 51% said the argument that Medicare for all could expand wait times and limit access to medical specialists was convincing.
So that's the oldest Republican talking point in the book. Oh my God, do you know the lines in Canada? The other day I tried to get an appointment with a doctor under our private insurance bureaucracy. They told me to wait for a month.
Right.
How do you like that for a line?
Okay, this is one of my favorite parts of this story. Democratic voters in this research survey were less swayed by the fear of losing private employer-based coverage. Only 45% said that argument was convincing, while 49% said it was not.
I love it. So all of this stuff about, oh my God, you're gonna lose your private insurance. Americans love private insurance. They love filling out the paperwork and having to pay deductibles and sometimes not getting covered. They love it, said everyone on television and every corporate Democrat. And you know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna predict ahead of time because they did this poll. Now this poll is gonna get distributed to every corporate Democrat, and they're gonna go, oh, they're gonna switch their talking points. They're not gonna talk about private insurance anymore. You're not gonna see that anymore, okay? There'll still be some residual stuff and then it'll die out. Because they're like, oh, it turns out people don't like their private insurance. I don't know, the private insurance lobbyists I was talking to said they did, okay? So they will switch the talking points about how it's gonna end Medicare as you know it. Watch, that's coming. This is how it works. Third way is financed by corporations who make money off of bilking us and denying us healthcare. And then they bring it to the corporate Democrats and go, hey, remember you get paid by all these guys, the drug companies, the insurance companies. So tell them that it's gonna end Medicare as you know. So now, anytime you see anyone saying that on the Democratic side, know that they are liars and deeply corrupt. You should never trust them if you hear any Democrat ever saying it ends Medicare as we know it. So now that's not even the best news. Let me get to the best news. Now, they also tested positive messages. Oops, you shouldn't have done that, okay? So it showed that 78% of Democrats were swayed by the argument that the US should join the rest of the world in making healthcare a right. So the number did not go down from 70%, it went up to 78%. Now, if you're a guy running for president like Joe Biden, you see this number, you know what I would do, because I like winning. I'd be like, oh, 8 out of 10 Americans would be on my side if I was for Medicare for all and I said it should be a right like every other major country in the world. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Instead, he goes, no, I'm gonna be on the side of almost no one. And on behalf of corporations, I'm gonna lose. Okay, great. So that's why it can't be you. It can't be you. One last stat, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, I did want to say one thing. I don't know if Bernie Sanders has been doing his own testing on messaging, but that very popular message is something that Bernie Sanders does repeat over and over again. The fact that the United States is the only developed country that does not have a universal healthcare system.
Yeah, no, he hasn't tested that. I know because he's been saying it for year after year after year. He's been saying it for decades now, and they weren't doing any polling on Medicare for all back then. So last one, 70% of primary voters were swayed by the argument that Medicare for all would get rid of out-of-pocket costs for anyone seeking care. To which I say, of course! So while these idiots were going around going, oh no, people love private insurance, man. They don't want that taken away. They love paying out of pocket costs, love it, right? When you actually ask Americans, 7 out of 10. By the way, they're not just asking Democrats. All Americans, Republicans and independents included. They're like, do I like paying out of pocket? No, you idiot. Of course I don't like paying out of pocket. And so, yes, you mean I get to have health care? And I don't have to pay any of that, and I don't have to go through any of that bureaucracy, but oh, the top 5% are gonna pay a little more. Ooh, don't hurt me, dog. Yes, how do we get this to 98%? So, third way, thank you for doing this poll that is accidentally damaging to your own cause. And if you're looking for a fighter who's gonna fight for progressive positions and ones that actually get healthcare for the whole country and lower our costs, it is definitely not Joe Biden. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.